The representation on the stage today is how the music is evolving and how is it being transmitted in this day and age. It's not limited. You can expect a mridangam player like Ananda Krishnan to know a tabla repertoire, while you can expect a Navin Sharma, a folk drum dholak player, to be able to play compositions of pakhawaj, a traditional Dhrupad instrument, and transpose all that information onto his instrument. So there are no fences in that sense. So what happens is, when you get like-minded instrumentalists or rhythm players like that, the journey becomes much more fun, because you understand each other, you know the salient features of each other's musicality, and so once you get on stage, the comfort zone and the confidence between each other's ability and the knowledge that each one of us understand each one of us's tradition and what that repertoire is. So that brings us together in a more unique manner than just two musicians without any what you may call a familiar background between each other get together. Then it's like, oh, what do we do? So that's not what's going to happen today. It's going to be more of a genuine, honest bow to each other's tradition and each other's instrument, and each other's instrument's ability to be able to live in all these different worlds at the same time. And so that's what the concert is going to be. Historically speaking, tabla is in fact an accompanying instrument. That's its primary function. So you have to understand that tabla is a very young instrument. It's only come into its own in the last 130, 140 years, and it is still developing its own repertoire. Up till about 80, 90 years ago, it was borrowing from the pakhawaj repertoire. So tabla repertoire was in that sense limited. Whatever the Delhi Gharana people came up with, some interesting finger technique to play qaidas and stuff, that was about the limit of it. But now, in recent times, there has been development in the last 60, 70 years and focus on developing a tabla repertoire. So therefore, now it has become possible, since the advent of great masters like Ustad Zakir Khan Sahab, Habibuddin Khan Sahab, and then later on people like my father, Pandit Shamta Prasad ji, Pandit Kishan Maharaj ji, and all that, the solo tabla has gained popularity and has become one of the looked for items in music festivals and so on. So, but it's in the last 20 years or 25 years that it has really taken hold, because what has happened is there have been many young tabla players who are able to perform tabla solo, and in a way where it connects with the audience. That's what's happening. There are so many great tabla players now. I mean, Sapan Chaudhary ji, Anindo bhai, Sabir bhai, Kumar Bose ji, Shubhankar bhai, my own brother Fazal, and Satyajit and Aditya and Yogesh Samsi, and it's just amazing that there are so many great tabla players around at the same time. And that's made it possible for the tabla to be able to develop its own audience. And because of that, we are able to get that many more solo concerts. And in the last 25, 30 years, there has been a concerted effort to be able to develop a special, unique tabla repertoire, which is not just relying on one gharana or one style or one school, but sort of is a concoction of all the elements of tabla that exists in India, and therefore the repertoire has expanded. In the old days, Delhi players would not play Meerut, or Meerut players would not play Lucknow, or Lucknow players would not play Banaras, or etc., etc. But now you have tabla players who are able to draw upon all the compositions and repertoire from each of these schools. So the individual's repertoire has expanded, and therefore the solo has become a much more valid and exciting performance, and that's what's happening. But again, coming back, the primary function of a tabla is to be an accompanist. The disadvantage of what's happening now is that most of the students are being trained to play tabla solo. They are not being trained to be accompanists. And that's where we have to find a fine balance as to how to be able to prepare them to be soloists, but at the same time prepare them to be good accompanists. I think it's a myth that there is a challenge When you are connected to a teacher, you are connected to a teacher. It doesn't matter where you are. There is an invisible umbilical cord that connects us, and at the same time, whatever the teachings are, they are being transmitted every day, day in and day out. And when we sit down to practice, that vision, those voices, everything is constantly in our ear, and only then we can develop. We need to have the core in front of us. We need to be plugged into that core 24/7. Then only it's possible for us to expand, reach out. You know how it is when a spaceman in his space suit, when he takes a spacewalk, he's still connected to the space station or the space shuttle in some ways, so that he's not in any way pulled away and gone into a totally different world and not to be found again. That's not what happens, for us. We are always connected with our teachers, and not only the teacher that is a present teacher or guru of yours now, but generations of them. It's a passed on knowledge over many decades, many centuries that we have in our possession, which we need to share, and we need to make sure that it is preserved and nurtured and then passed on. And so therefore that energy constantly stays with us. So for me, it did not matter where I was. My teachers were always with me. Their recordings were with me. Their photographs were with me. Their videos were with me. And their voice was with me in terms of them teaching me on a cassette or something or whatever. So there was a constant connection. And I'm sure it's the same with all musicians. It's good that there is a place where people in this part of the world, in this city, can go to listen to quality Indian classical music and be able to partake in it, learn, and of course enjoy, entertain, be transported, whatever. And so NAAD has done that, and now in the last few years I've seen, I don't know how many, 4, 5, 6 years, that it has really come back as a very important organization for non-Western music. And Indian music has again found a friend in Amsterdam and in Holland, and all kudos to NAAD, and all the best of luck for future concerts. And I hope that audiences do turn up and see them.